Xavier Worthy ran really fast at the NFL Combine. A.D. Mitchell ran really fast at the NFL Combine. Should you draft those guys? Should you draft them higher? What do we do with the players in the Combine? What do we do with Mike Evans now that he's back in Tampa Bay? Justin Fields, he was going to the Falcons. He was maybe going to the Steelers. He's not going to there. He's not going to the Steelers now. What do we do with the latest news that is happening in the NFL landscape in our best ball drafts? We're going to figure that out tonight with you guys, myself, and Rob, drafting a big board team and handling your questions. Let's do it. Rob, as the people say, it's been so long since I've been in the crypto space and such that the GMs still get me. It still kills me. I understand that's a thing that we do, but the GM thing gets me. Good evening, as a normal person like Jason would say. Olaf and Al, thank you guys for joining us. Quickly, as an intro, we had a person break a record of running really, really, really fast at the NFL Combine this week, and I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't at least bring that up to kind of talk some things through. First question: do you watch anything about the Combine? Right, is that of interest to you to watch anything about the Combine? Watch these guys run their 40s, or I know we're obviously taking in the results and stuff from that, but is it something that you as just an entertainment element that you care about at all?
I'll watch the Twitter clips and stuff like that on X now. But we were talking about this a little bit yesterday on the Sunday Sicko stream. I think this was the year that the Combine starts to become irrelevant. I think it was already becoming irrelevant, but I think the Caleb Williams thing is going to be a giant starting point to people doing even less and less at the Combine going forward. And it's gonna have this chain reaction, and pro days are going to be more important than the Combine, which they probably already are at this point, to be completely honest. But I think the Combine as a spectacle is going to go away in the next 5 to 10 years. I take all that with a grain of salt. We're measuring athleticism. We've done this time and time again. Just because you run very fast does not mean you can play NFL football. Sometimes you can do both. You can be Tyreek Hill. Oftentimes what happens? Fast guy flames out, can't get on the field because he just can't play football. Running fast in a straight line isn't always great. I'm not saying anyone in particular. I'm just saying in general, measurables don't always equate to success. So, yeah, you want to see some of that, but it's not to me. I mean, we can bring up Kyron for the last time, right?
The last, yes.
Well,
This will
he's bad
certainly
at
be the
football,
last
right?
time we ever mention Kyron Williams on this show.
But his measurables are terrible, and he's
Horrible.
and that supposedly made him bad at football, right? But that the opposite's true. He's good at football with quote unquote mediocre athleticism in comparison to guys at his position. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just the football IQ, and that's what we really need to know. What I like about the NFL Combine is finding out that guys don't believe in space.
Yes.
That's my favorite thing of all time.
And that dude,
what is that?
You know why he doesn't believe in space? Because he's a freak athlete. He's pretty sure that that stuff out there doesn't exist, because he could jump out of Earth's atmosphere, and that dude is an absolute mutant of a human being, right? Jumping, the same thing as Xavier Worthy from a defensive side of things. That he runs an absurd 40. All this cone drills and everything are fast, 40 something inch vertical. These guys are not human beings. And so I have I'm workshopping this weird take about these guys. So this is what happened with Kyrie Irving, that he was so good at this sport that it's got, people will equate this to Michael Jordan, right? So Michael Jordan, best basketball player ever, or give or take first, second, third, whatever you believe. tries to take over the Charlotte Hornets and run the basketball, like run an NBA team. And he cannot figure out how to work with players who don't operate the way. So not only are they not as talented as he is, they don't operate like that whole fuck you attitude, that whole, making up reasons to be motivated. Like if you don't do that, Michael Jordan like can't wrap his head around that. So Kyrie Irving is kind of the, more popular example of this, the Texas Tech, I believe it was, corner or whatever, that doesn't believe in space, thinks the earth is flat, like just absolutely absurd shit that this kid was saying at the combine. Also probably needs a better agent or something, or, publicist, agent, whatever these guys have. Like, it's honestly, it's whatever, believe whatever you want to believe, but don't fucking say it at the combine. Like I have a lot of things that I think of and they're probably stupid and people would think they're stupid. You're not going to, like the hottest take you're going to get from me, is to draft Trey Lance and to not eat soup. I'm not diving into all the other worldly takes that I have on public because that doesn't do me any good. But like Kyrie can't comprehend not being just like God gave him this ability. Like, yes, he worked for some of it, but like he also just was naturally more gifted. And so it's like, I feel like those people then take everything else another step further where it's like, I can do this thing that like, why can't everyone else just play NBA basketball? And so when everyone else believes this thing, they're like, but why is that for sure true? Because some random dude sitting in a lab believes it, like that, I just feel like there's this weird parallel between the people that like God gave them this ability to be so unbelievably talented at athletics that they then let their mind wander because they're not necessarily, I'm not saying they're not smart. Like Jaylen Brown is a genius, but I'm saying they let their mind wander because of the athleticism part of it, where it's like, and then they have money and all that, right? Aaron Rodgers, has more money than God. And so he's like, letting his mind wander to all this other stuff and these conspiracy theories. And it's like, it's wild to see these like crazy athletes, like then they're always the ones that take it too far with these absurd real life takes.
Sort of like our chat that takes things too far, where in the
Yes.
comments right now, Benjamin saying, we need to learn to chef if we don't like soup. And it's like, sir, you understand soup is mostly made out of thick water. So I don't think I need to learn how to chef.
Yeah, I do need to learn how to chef. I am a very, very amateur chef. But I think that has to do a lot with like a lot of other things other than broth. You know what I mean? Like I can heat up some broth as good as about anybody can. Like we'll go toe to toe with some broth heating, but I'm not going to necessarily be able to do a lot of other things that a chef would do. Obviously, we're messing around with soup. If this is your first time joining us, this is not the first time we discussed soup, but Rob and I gave a flaming hot take last year. End of last summer, something like that, about soup that the people did not love. Rob and I both believe soup is a little overrated, and so we're going to keep running with that bit. Apologies for continuing that one, but I do think that the combine is kind of what you said, to get back on track. It's entertainment to me, and it's great entertainment, dude. Watching Xavier Worthy run a 4.2 140, I watched it live, and I was like that. It was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. Like that is so fast, and he's like small, so they're moving even faster. That's what I find fascinating about Tyreek is like Randy Moss was running 4.2 40s, and he didn't really look like he was running a 4.2 40 because he's 6'4", has a super long stride. When Tyreek at 5'9" does it, when Xavier Worthy at 5'10" does it, you're like, my God, they're moving so fast that it's super entertaining. But even go check Twitter. If you want to if you don't believe Rob or myself about the combine maybe being not something we should take too much into account in terms of our evaluation for players, it's whether that be NFL, certainly from a fantasy football perspective. Andy Reid, pretty successful NFL head coach, won a couple Super Bowls in the last 2 years, came out and said today or recently that he really doesn't care about the combine. He goes to the combine to meet the players. Like his whole goal of going to the combine is like he wants to meet you and get to know you, see what kind of person you are, that kind of thing. He doesn't really care. Like he doesn't really care about the testing. He doesn't really care about all that. He cares about the football player that you are. And the football player that you are is not out there in tights running around with no defense there or no offense there or whatever. I'm not saying there aren't things at all that we can't take away from the combine, And of course, some NFL teams do care about the combine, right? Kyron Williams probably fell from like a 3rd round pick to a 5th round pick because of the combine. But it doesn't change the football player that you are. And I think that is important to note. And, when we get into a draft here shortly, you'll see, maybe some guys like a Xavier Worthy that'll rise, where Rob and I are not necessarily as interested as the market is in chasing them up. If they really flash at the combine and they don't move at all, like, okay, that's something that's interesting. So I'll a guy who I will use the combine to start to sprinkle in, and this is a question that we'll get to in a second from our Discord. I'll use the combine to be like, I've been drafting a bunch of guys in the last couple of rounds. Like, oh, this guy popped at the combine. I'll sprinkle, and I haven't been drafting him. Like, I'll sprinkle him in now later, as opposed to, right, I've been drafting Malik Washington every time in the 18th round. And he did pop at the combine. Also, shout out Malik Washington, highest vertical jump at the entire combine. Can you imagine being 5'8" and having a 42.5-inch vertical? That's what Malik Washington did.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost what I do on a daily basis.
What are you? How tall are? I know you're close to 5'8", right? How tall are you?
I'm close. I'm 5'10", sir.
I don't believe you. With shoes on.
Oh,
What's your
5'10".
vertical? 42 and a half.
What?
Pretty close.
Yeah, give or take. Give or take 40 inches.
So that's why you scoffed at my question, because you're so used to having the 40-inch vertical at 5'10". But so like my thing basically is like, if I was on Xavier Worthy before, this doesn't change anything to me. But if I was off of AD Mitchell, which I was, if I was off of AD Mitchell before, if I was not really in love with Brian Thomas's price, just because they flashed at the combine, it isn't. I'm not now jumping in on them. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. And the flip side is also true, where if a guy that I really liked tanked the combine, shout out Audric Estime, maybe the Notre Dame running backs should stop running the 40 at the combine. But like it doesn't really change anything for me for Audric Estime. I'll probably buy the dip and I'll end up overweight on a guy like that.
Yeah, that's fair. There was a moment in my life, I think like a 3-week period, where I could just about dunk a basketball. That's my vertical. Could almost do it. Could grab rim without the ball. Got hung every other time.
Yeah. So question, that's what she said. Got a question that most
I hope not.
basketball players so I'm just shy of 6 foot. I call myself 6 foot. My license says 6 foot, but I'm just shy of 6 foot tall. I could not like fully palm the ball. So like if I like have a basketball and I like, you like cram it into your hand, I can palm it and hold it like this. That's very different from being in a game and like dribbling and being able to palm it. So I could get up there and like lay it in above, like high enough to dunk a basketball. It is in my heyday. I don't even think I touched the rim anymore. But could you like that was a big, huge, like that tilted me to no end. I'm like, God gave me, as a small white kid, I got just enough juice to get up there, but my hands are too little to dunk the basketball. It's like, that's like the fantasy gods messing with us. That was like the basketball gods messing with me.
Yeah, if I was just like you, if I put it in there and I like crammed my hand on it, I could palm it then, but I couldn't just like palm a ball out of the air like some of these psychopaths with these 8 feet tall fingers can do. But yeah, that's the same problem I had, because you'd go up with it, you'd get there, and then it would just kind of start to slowly come out.
I always enjoyed.
We should do a Spike Week combine.
Dude, if you think I wasn't thinking about that. This is how broken my brain is. I was thinking about that because I was like, I think I'd be all right. I think I'd be all right at a best ball combine. I've seen a lot of these, best ball streamers and sickos out there, and I feel like I'd be all right. I don't think I'd win, but I think I would do okay. But the basketball thing tilts me to no end. The amount of times, like just playing around in the gym or whatever, you jump up, the ball slips out of your hands, and you grab the rim, like acting like a hard ass. Like I did that. I probably did that way too. I was that guy. Back.
You're the reason for double rims.
100%. 100%. So we got 2 questions in the chat for, again, if you're just joining us for the first time. What we like to do on these draft streams is answer a couple of questions, or as many questions as we can get to from the Discord. So there is a live streams and media channel in the Spike Week Discord, of which there is a link in the description. It's totally free. You can hop in for free. If you ever want to ask a question or just like a comment and get some feedback on, you can post in that channel and we'll try to address it before we hop in this draft. 2 quick questions. The first one from our resident hacker, our resident hacker. He says, speaking of the combine, is there anyone from the combine that you thought was a good pick, right? So last Thursday, you thought was a good pick who you changed your mind on because they were just like, it was too bad to ignore, basically, type of a situation?
No. I mean, because I don't take enough stock in it personally. So like
Yeah.
you might have a different answer, but I just don't take enough stock. It would have to be tragically bad for me to change my mind now. I mean, the thing that changes the mind the most is where these guys get drafted, right?
Yeah.
Like that is the big one. So the combine doesn't do it much for me. Also, we're gonna have a discussion about how to say the word combine because I think you got a St. Louis thing going on there.
Combine, as opposed to combine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Midwest thing. Yeah, it's a Midwest thing. We're going to keep saying that. So speaking of the combine, how much, God damn it. You're going to screw me up now. I can't say that word anymore because now it's in my head. You're in my head. You're very much in my head. But a good question from Drake, which is not related to the thing that farmers use. How much do you weight opportunity versus talent in the in the late rounds? Let's talk about it for right now. But you can talk about it for late, like you said, once we get the draft and all that kind of stuff. I think it's actually a really, we could do a whole episode probably on this talent versus opportunity, even in the late rounds type of situation. But how are you thinking about it like right now?
Well, in terms of rookies or just in terms of everybody? Because I think I like some of the guys.
Anything. Everybody. Anybody.
Well, I think there's guys that are late that I actually like that are second year players like Jalen Hyatt, who I think is going to have a ton of opportunity this year, just based on what that team is and what we saw them try to do with him. That I think he might be a little bit undervalued, right? So I'm trying to scoop up those guys because Jalen Hyatt, you start seeing him sit with the rest of the starters during these preseason games or something. I'm not saying it's going to be a Puka Nacua situation from last year. That's like the ultimate top 1%. But you start seeing a guy like Jalen Hyatt sit or run with the ones every single time. We're going to want him just based on opportunity, no matter what we think that Giants team is, right? So if I think his opportunity is going to be maximized, he's a young enough player, I'm going to want to be slightly overweight on a player like that. Now that might change as we get more information, but second year players, especially this year, I'm really into. Not that I'm not in other years, but I think this draft class, other than wide receivers, that's like the big caveat, is overrated AF, right? Like for the most part. So, second year,
the top 3 quarterbacks look pretty good. And obviously, like you said, the wide receivers, but the running back, it's bad at running back. It's bad at tight end. So
I'm not even that convinced on the quarterbacks, to be completely honest with you.
The NFL clearly isn't.
For me, it's
JJ
like,
McCarthy is getting all this goddamn steam. The NFL's clearly not that convinced either.
So I think it's more like I actually was thinking about this earlier today. In terms of opportunity, second year running backs are like going to be my bread and butter this year. It feels like I am going to be eating up second year running backs. That situations are going to be improving, and the draft spot hasn't caught up to them. We've already started doing it, right? Like, yeah, we like Khalil Herbert, but Roshan Johnson, love Roshan Johnson, right? So like guys like that, even the top guys, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, I want those guys as well, but I also want the guys that people forget about. Hell, I'll take some shots on Kendre Miller this year, just based on what that Saints team is going to be. So
I like
second
this.
year running backs, I think, are going to be the key to winning the thing to winning it all this year.
I like this take a lot. I think that's second year wide receivers who did nothing as rookies are actually a cohort of player I'm very skittish of. I did a piece about, of course, it's cheesy or whatever, but about waterfalls is what that I called them. But players who kind of what I believe, generally speaking, is when a player shows us who they are, whether it could be as a rookie, it could be like once it's shown who you are, and when who you are is not a productive NFL football player, even as a rookie. I know that seems harsh, and I know it seems like, yeah, but he was just a rookie, he could bounce back. That is technically possible, but what we see historically is, I like to call this the Alec Pierce. As someone who liked Alec Pierce like more than the market did, I like to think about it as the Alec Pierce. Good draft capital as a rookie, got to play a bunch as a rookie, did jack shit as a rookie. But then heading into year two, it was like, well, he's year two, right? There's this whole year two narrative around players. The year two breakouts and all that kind of stuff. And he was the year two, and it was like, yeah, but he didn't do shit as a rookie. So in year two, he was in the same spot in year two, with maybe more target competition. And all that happened was he continued to be Alec Pierce, right? And those guys generally, there's no rules in best ball. There's going to be anomalies and such, but generally those guys kind of just are what they are. Even like as rookies, when they show us they're just like a guy that just runs routes. And I'm not saying running routes is not ever something that we should consider, which I think is to your Jalen Hyatt could be like MVS, right? Running routes, but catching a few deep balls in a better situation.
Right.
There's value in that. So I agree with you. But I think the second year running back thing is where I was just like light bulbs going off when you were saying that, because I think people talk about it way too much from a wide receiver and a tight end perspective. And when I think about it from a running back perspective, it's like that's the spot where we care less about talent, where it's all about opportunity, and where those guys can come in and like, dude, if you don't know how to pass block as a rookie running back, like tough shit, buddy, you're sitting on the sidelines. You know what I mean? Like or you just right. You got Derrick Henry in front of you. You have, CMC in front of you. You have whatever, you're just not going to get to play at wide receiver. They got to play 3 or oftentimes 4 of them at the same time. So you only carry like 5 or 6 on the active roster. The rookie is going to play, but the second year running back can be the guy. I mean, like you said, look at this class. We obviously had the 2 first-ish round picks. Last year, Kyron was a second year running back, right? Tyjae Spears this year is a second year running back. Kendre was a rookie running back who we were excited about as a prospect, but just was, hurt all summer, got dropped into the stupid fucking Saints, who have Kamara and pay Jamal Williams for some unknown reason. Like there was all of that going on with Kendre. We have Abanikanda. I think you and I drafted him last Monday. Drafted Izzy Abanikanda, right? Chris Rodriguez. Like there's all these guys who are like, we think they might be talented, but they just didn't even get a chance to show it in year one. Whereas like Alec Pierce got a chance to show it in year one and he didn't do it, And so I really like the second year running back thing. I've kind of been like, I think you and I both have been subconsciously drafting like with that.
Yeah.
But once you like just really said it out loud, I think it's a huge thing that we should call out for sure.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is going to be massive for some of these guys. I did see somebody commenting on my hot pink uplighting here, and I'm just going to point it out because I forgot my remote, so I am stuck using the pink for my uplighting. And second, I am in the ugliest hotel room that has ever existed. I don't know if you can see that brown wall that has some sort of shadow going on. I'm going to show you this carpet. Is this not the worst carpet you've ever seen in your entire life? What is this?
Are you downtown Vegas or something? You like
No, dude,
you're like 4 blocks off the strip in Vegas in like a Motel 6 or something. That's what that looks like.
It's what you would think.
Red Roof Inn.
I'm on like the town that straddles the New York line in Pennsylvania. The pickings were slim for hotels around here.
Yeah, That's
So
I've been I used to have to go to Pennsylvania quite a bit, and that is not surprising. Yeah, see, Dan had the same.
it
Had the
feels
same. Are
like
you
it.
at the flamingo? It does. It really does look like the flamingo. But there was one more question. We'll try to get to it here in just a second, like while we're drafting. But I do want to hop into this draft right away. We're drafting in the big board on Underdog, and we're gonna see if we can put some of this new knowledge about second-year running backs and combine fades, combine new people we may or may not be excited about. Damn it, I said it again. Now I'm in my own head. You're in my head. I'm in my head. The chat's in my head. It's a tough scene right now over here. 108. We drew the 108. So I was talking about this with baseball, MLB best ball with the folks in the Discord the other day, where I have gotten like the 103 through 107 every goddamn draft in baseball. Ronald Acuna goes first overall in MLB. He's like the CMC, like literally goes 101 in every single. I think his ADP is legit 1.0. Like there may not be a draft, other than the very, very, very rare one where some idiot takes somebody else. He's just the locked in 101. And I have 2 shares out of like 40 something of. Ooh. I just got my second one. It's super painful. Have you had any like crazy distributions on your early draft slots or anything like that?
For baseball? Oh, dude, no, 150.
Yeah, please tell me your Will Benson exposure. Sonny Gray got hurt today, Rob. Tell me about how you feel about Sonny Gray's hamstring injury today.
I was mortified, to be honest with you. I was
As
so
a Cardinals
upset.
fan, I was mortified.
13% Sonny Gray in my 150 team portfolio. We are very sad. He was my number 3 pitcher in my rotation for most of my lineups. Am I doing good? Am I selling that I know baseball?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty fitting, actually. That's pretty fitting. He's a St. Louis Cardinal.
Thank God you didn't ask me what team he played for, because we would have been grasping at straws for sure.
No, but in your like big board drafts, I know you've been moving Bijan around the board and stuff like that. But is it just like you're specifically trying to get some fun combos with Bijan, or have you had like a bunch of early round picks and you're like, I don't have any Bijan, so I'm trying to take him earlier?
I don't think I've had any 10 through 12 picks yet in my drafts, so that's kind of interesting.
Speaking of, we are on the clock at the 108. I know Rob is a big fan of Bijan. I like Bijan as well. You want to play the hits with Bijan here? You want to do something funky, or what are you thinking?
Well, let's take one of the 2 running backs. Let's take Bijan, or let's take Gibbs if you want to pull Gibbs up.
No, let's take Bijan. I much prefer Bijan to
Gibbs. I much prefer Bijan to Gibbs too. I don't think it's close, personally, but
I think I have Bijan. I think I have Bijan 107, and Gibbs like 15th or something like that in the ranking. So it's a pretty stark difference for me. Like I have Jonathan Taylor and Kyron both over Gibbs. It's not a slight. That's the thing I hate about the early round discourse is it's like I ranked the guy 15th overall, and people will be like, "Why do you hate Jahmyr Gibbs?" And it's like he's my fucking 15th overall player. Like I don't hate Jahmyr Gibbs. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I just think that a running back who in some weeks is going to get like 6 touches. I know that's an exaggeration, but like I think that there's some issues with the cost on Jahmyr Gibbs. So now we're in this fun spot in the second round. What do you like to do here?
I like Nico, but
I got 33% Nico and 33% DJ Moore. Ayuk I don't have with him. I know you like Ayuk a little bit more than me. Do you want to try Ayuk here?
Sure, let's do an Ayuk team. Or just do it.
That's fine.
I was gonna say not to do it because this is what we did last week.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Didn't we go Ayuk because I'm pretty sure we went Ayuk if I recall correctly.
Let me look.
But I'm not 100%. But I still think it's unique enough to do. So I'm fine with it.
And even when it's not
I
unique, I think the
probably
second round is so flat and open that I just don't. I don't want to be super consolidated to any. Oh, that was mine. Oh, it was on your account. So we drafted on yours
okay.
last week. So
That might
even
have got
better.
thrown
That's
out
why.
because all my
That's
drafts are getting thrown out.
But so that's a big thing for me in the second round, actually, where the first round,
Mhm.
like I know you and I defer like a tick on how we want to handle the first round, but I don't really have anybody specifically I'm interested in like full fading or anything like that in the first round. And so I'm kind of taking what it gives me. I am going to try to manipulate some combinations, right? I am going to try to get some unique Brees, some unique whatever Chase, whatever. But I'm not like trying to take a stand of fading Brees or fading Bijan or anything like that. And so when I think about that, then I get to the second round and I'm like, dude, I don't know. Marvin Harrison, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Nico Collins, Achane, Rice, Debo, like they're all, it's a huge, huge flat tier to me. And so I don't want to have then the reason why I called out like the 33% on Bijan teams with those other guys is I don't want to have disproportionate ownership on this huge flat tier in the second round with any of these first round picks because I'm impartial to kind of all of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And my question to you after we make our next pick is when does that disproportion actually matter for you? Like, did you have to be 25 drafts in, 50
Good question.
drafts in? That's what we're going to need to figure out this year because, all 33% aren't the same.
Right. So I say that now, and I'm about to say I have 33% of DK Metcalf with Bijan. I know you like Waddle. I like Waddle too, and I only have 4% of him. So I'm gonna nominate Waddle here.
Yeah, let's take Waddle. I was going to try to talk you into taking Hertz, but I don't know
You're
if
not
we'd
gonna.
get
You're
Devonta
not gonna.
Smith
Yeah,
on
I
this
think that's.
particular
I
team.
I think that's my problem. Is
Yeah.
and it. So here's the question: if you wanted Hertz Smith, who would you take first? Devonta or Jalen Hurts?
Hurts, I guess, but it's super close.
Because I think the person like we might see it here. Either the 311 or 312 might try to set up that Eagle stack. I kind of feel like I would take Devonta Smith and then hope Hurts falls to me because you know how it gets with quarterbacks sometimes in these
Well,
rooms.
especially
And
this room.
yeah, and so Steve double taps him, right? That's exactly what kind of is not surprising at all to me. And it's totally fine. I mean, I have no problem with Steve doing that. Just like from our perspective, if we wanted that, if someone's listening and they're like, I'm in your spot, I want to get that Eagle stack here. What would I do? I think I would take Devonta Smith and just, like you said, hope I'm in a sharp room or hope that, because they don't have a stacking partner, they won't take Hurts type of a situation. I'm going to
Your
keep
T Higgins exposure is interesting because you're at 14% and you don't have him with any of the guys we have.
right.
So we could make that a
And
fun little play here.
I'm specifically trying to run down my Keenan exposure. Let's take T because I'm specifically trying to run down my Keenan exposure because that was a big board opened. Keenan Allen is in the fourth round. I'm in type of a situation. And then they hired Harbaugh. And then they brought Greg Roman in as the offensive coordinator. And I was like, oh, fuck. I don't want any more of this Keenan Allen. Slightly exaggerating, but like now I'm trying to get T. I'm trying to get Zay Flowers. I'm trying to get Jaden Reed, Rome, right? I want to flatten out this tier. Whereas before, I legitimately thought Keenan was really underpriced at this cost, and my take has changed. My take has totally changed. So I'm trying to move it over to some of these other guys. I also just really do like T. I think we went. Absolutely nothing has changed about T. Higgins, who we've been taking in the late second for the last 2 years. And because of injuries and like just kind of Joe Burrow's injuries and some awkwardness of the Bengals, now he's going in the fourth. Like that's crazy. Like I'm not
Well,
saying
now
he
he's
should
going
go
where
in
he should go.
right, and maybe a tick lower even than he should go
Yeah.
because now it's like it's locked. Tyler Boyd's gone. He's locked in back to the Bengals. He still has the contingent value of what if Jamar Chase misses some time and you get 18 target T Higgins or whatever with Joe Burrow. I think we went it. You can only fall from your actual efficient value so much in the first couple of rounds, but I think we went from overpriced T Higgins to now underpriced T Higgins, and he's probably more of like a mid to late third as opposed to a mid fourth, right? And he was going in the late second before.
Yeah, I think I think I'm under on T right now, but I think it's just the way my drafts have set up more so than anything. It's definitely not a me trying to fade T Higgins situation by any means. I definitely want T Higgins again this year.
So here's
Are
a funny one.
you
I love Terry McLaurin, as you can see, but I also have apparently really loved Terry McLaurin with Bijan. with Bijan, he goes
well,
anyway.
luckily he goes, so we don't have to make that tough decision here. God, it's already just getting disgusting on
I
this
know,
board.
I know.
I was going to ask you about Calvin Ridley, but he's gone. Is
I
there anyone
really don't
jumping
like
out?
Addison. What about Anthony Richardson? What about Ken Walker? I mean, these are guys that I don't take as
I'm
much.
interested in Ken Walker, especially
Let's do
with
a Ken Walker team.
yeah. Let's do Ken Walker to go with Bijan. You want to talk about a team that you can load up on second year running backs and rookie running backs now?
So we're so set at running back now that we don't have to do the whole. And I'm not saying we have to avoid this, but like a linchpin of how I've been drafting, and it like starts to feel repetitive, is I get to round 10 or whatever, and I'm like, okay, here comes Roshan or Khalil Herbert, Zamir White, Ty Chandler, right? Zach Charbonnet, his teammate, and like I just get to that tier, and I'm wiping out all those running backs, which is good. I want to be overweight on all those guys, but I don't want every single draft that I do in the big board to be dependent upon 5 running backs. You know what I mean?
Right.
I am still into the Seattle Seahawks for this upcoming season with their offensive coordinator changing, with Pete Carroll being gone. And if they are a little more run heavy, which is what Mike McDonald supposedly said he wants to do, like we probably should be drafting, we should be at least at the market on 5th round Ken Walker if they're going to be a little bit, more focused on being a good running team.
For sure. Sorry. I was trying to fix our draft board here, but why is it not looking the way it's supposed to look? Anyways, we're on the clock. We'll fix this in a second.
I'm gonna
Ooh,
pitch Godwin.
32% Chris Godwin.
Oh yeah, I'm in on Godwin. Even though Mike Evans is back, we can talk a little bit about that. I'm open to one of these other guys if you prefer. But what I was gonna say is I don't have Godwin, even though I have 32%. So he's a player I want to take, and I don't have him with Bijan.
Or anyone on this team. That's crazy. Yeah, take him.
So that's
I think
one
that
of my
definitely shows you how you can be so high on somebody, and yet your exposure, you're either concentrating your exposure with your first rounders, right? That you're getting Godwin teams on, or I don't know what else it could be. Like that's just the only
right.
way it
So
could be,
like
right?
I like Chris Godwin a lot. Obviously, I have 32%. I'm very into Chris Godwin, and yet I don't have him with Bijan Robinson, who I'm actually slightly overweight on. I'm slightly overweight on Bijan Robinson, and I have basically no Ken Walker, so I definitely don't have Chris Godwin with Ken Walker. And it's like those are the things when people say when they think about exposure in a vacuum about an individual player that I think are the mistakes that happen for best ball drafters, where they say, okay, they would get to this point and it would just like if you were not using the draft hacker specifically with the settings that I used. I'm not saying that you have to use those settings. You don't have to care about these combos if you don't want, but I believe that it's really powerful to be like know when to still keep taking that 32% owned guy, right? Is like because I have clearly made a stance that Chris Godwin is a player I really like at this cost. But like, when is the draft to keep taking him? It's like, oh, you don't want to have if Chris Godwin is a stand you're trying to take, and Bijan is a player you like, why would you never have Bijan and Chris Godwin together? Like that doesn't make any sense. And so like if you back off of him arbitrarily because I don't want to have 34% after this draft of Chris Godwin, like now you just removed your chance at Bijan. And depending on how many big board drafts you're going to do, you don't even know that you're ever going to get a chance to get Bijan and Chris Godwin again in another draft at cost. And so that's why I wanted to do that one. Just be like, I'm probably not going to max the big board. And so if I really like Chris Godwin and I really like Bijan, I don't want to have 0 of them.
Yeah, it would be such a weird combo not to have if you're overweight on both. But I think you see that even when you do max contests.
100%.
I noticed this after I'm like 90 drafts in and I'm doing the draft and I have my draft hacker up and I'm just like, how in the hell do I not have these two players together? Right. And then you make a conscious effort that you're going to get a couple of teams with those guys together. So, yeah, I saw that coming a mile away.
Me too, but one can pray. See, I hate this. Obviously, I have a ton of Njoku. I'm fine taking him again. I'm fine looking elsewhere. I'm trying to get my fields up a little bit if we want to do that. Pitts, I have a ton of. Any thoughts for you? Dobbs, Franklin.
I'm fine with taking Fields, especially when that trade comes through and it might bump him up around or something. So if you're going to be in on Fields, it's a good time to be in on Fields.
Yeah.
Where he goes, I mean, you might have just stacked him with Bijan. Who knows? Could be a possibility.
True.
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to Atlanta, but
where do you think he's going? Pittsburgh said they're out.
Feels like the Raiders.
I'm in for that. I'm very in for that. We just had a whole conversation today in the Discord about the Raiders and Davante Adams. And if Justin Fields, can you imagine the extent to which Justin Fields locked on DJ Moore last year? If he has Davante Adams as his wide receiver, he's not going to throw it to anybody else. He's going to run or he's going to throw it to Davante.
And you're locking in Davante to stay on the Raiders if you trade for Justin Fields, because you're not going to trade for Justin Fields and then move Davante Adams, right? So, I think that's the most likely scenario. Atlanta's still there, of course, but I don't know.
So, but now that we said this, I do like thinking about Justin Fields once you take him in a draft and like where that might lead you with the Raiders. Keeping the Raiders in our back pocket, and we don't have a tight end yet. Michael Mayer is going to be an option.
Well, that's where it would lead me.
So I do have 100% of Troy Franklin with Justin Fields, but I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that just yet. He's my favorite option here. Do you have anybody else?
No, go for it. Where did Troy Franklin start in drafts? Where was he going when the big board opened?
Early hundreds.
Okay,
so he's risen 20.
Not as much as I thought. I thought he had risen a few.
Call it 20. 2 rounds.
Okay, 2 rounds. It's still impressive.
Yes, it is. And he didn't even pop at the combine. Like, he was fine, but like he didn't even pop at the combine, right? Combine. He didn't pop at the look, I'm from the Midwest. Just fucking deal with it. You're from Boston. You don't have a Boston accent, but every once in a while we're going to catch you slipping up the rest of the summer, because I'm going to be thinking about it, trying to find something that Rob says in a Boston accent, because I clearly have this Hoosier thing that I say. But no, Troy Franklin, it's funny where he hasn't like risen in mock drafts. He didn't crush it in Indianapolis this past weekend, and yet we've all decided that we love him, and I do love him, and I do think like he's a guy where I'm gonna like him no matter where he lands. But my God, if he lands in one of these good spots like Chiefs, right, somebody like that, it's like I fifth round Troy Franklin in BBM if he's on the Chiefs or something like that. Like, it's gonna be crazy.
We haven't even touched on the biggest news of the day, and that's Denver paying $83 million for nothing. Or whatever it was. I'm scared to death that Russell Wilson is going to sign with the New England Patriots.
I was just going to say, where do you think he lands?
And the only reason why I'm like slightly okay with it if he does come to New England is because that means that the Patriots probably drafted Marvin Harrison Jr.
So it's funny. I did Sirius yesterday with Bobby Gomes, another Patriots fan. And that was a big thing that he was pushing for. Not Russell Wilson, but Marvin Harrison. And that was, he was like, I would rather have a veteran, one of these veterans for a stopgap quarterback and get Marvin Harrison for the next 10 or 15 years than get one of the quarterbacks and not have Marvin Harrison. What do you think about that? Like, as a Patriots fan, would you rather have that even if you have to deal with Russ, would you rather have Russ and Marv or Drake May and shitty wide receivers?
Russ and Marv, because I don't believe in the quarterbacks in this class. So
Not even
it's
Caleb?
easy. Caleb's fine, but they're not getting Caleb is the point,
No,
right?
no,
like
right.
we know
It's May or
we know they're
Daniels
not.
or McCarthy.
Right.
The steam is ridiculous on McCarthy right now, like in NFL circles.
I was gonna say Chase Brown, but God, it doesn't really.
I got a little bit of Chase Brown and Bijan, in case you can't tell here, just a little. 100%. Oof, I don't have a good take here. Fire somebody at me. I'm down for Chase. If we don't have a good option, we have T, so like it's okay. Like I do think that's one of those little things where like you're in a pinch, you're like maybe I don't want Chase Brown. Like he can fit as a continuing out that secondary stack. Like you don't have to have Joe Burrow to stack some Bengals. And I think he makes total sense on this team. I clearly like him. I'm clearly you can see by my exposure, I'm clearly into Chase Brown. So I think it's totally fine. I think this area of the draft is like, woof, man. It's a tough scene.
It is quite gross. Paulino saying that he doesn't think the Patriots are riding with Russ. They're into Baker, apparently. I'm not saying that they're going to sign Russ, but I don't think that the Bucks re-sign Mike Evans without the plan to have Baker Mayfield as their quarterback again.
Mike Evans had to be like, "You're bringing that dude back. If I'm coming back, all he does is throw it to me. You're bringing it. I'm not coming back to this team that like supposedly Mike Evans wanted to go to a contender, and he came back to Tampa, which is very much not a contender. So there had to be some kind of like handshake going on. Like he's not coming back to play with Spencer Rattler as his quarterback or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I think the writing's on the wall there when they signed Mike Evans of where they're going to be going. Who do we take for a quarterback? Oh, we took Fields. That's right.
Fields. Best wide receivers are Hollywood, Lockett, Shaheed, Dotson, Ladd. Tight end. We're definitely going to be getting funky with tight end. I haven't done something like this. Goddard, Komet.
I don't like any of it.
I'm gonna take Goddard. I have not taken Goddard yet. And fair. I don't really love it, but I think that there's reason to be bullish on the Eagles in general and Dallas Goedert in general. Like they're not really going to bring target competition in. It was a mess last year, like the stone disaster specifically for Goddard. He was not very good last year, but I think the Eagles are an interesting one where you just say like you fade 2023 and you're like Dallas Goedert's really good at football. And the Eagles were an elite offense in 2022. Let's just fade that noise and kind of take him here. And specifically when there's nobody here that we're like totally in love with and we don't have a tight end, I don't have any Dallas Goedert. I love to like stack those kind of things and use that to kind of make my decision for me.
Yeah, the only other thing I was thinking is you could have gone. I didn't even love any of them, but if you wanted to get your second quarterback to go with Fields here, would have probably been fine as well because everything else is just so gross. I want to tell myself that Hollywood's going to do something, but I'm just kind of.
I told myself that last year and the year before.
He looked good in the beginning of last year.
I know, and the beginning of 2 years ago. Before, remember, he's on Arizona, and Nuke was in Arizona 2 years ago, and Hollywood was like, well, Nuke was suspended for roids. I was like, oh my god, Hollywood's the best. This is the greatest thing I've ever done. Hollywood's the best pick of all time. They played the Cowboys in week 17. I'm sitting here on these CD Dak Hollywood, James Conner stacks. You feel like a goddamn genius, and then I mean, Jesus. After week 6 of 2022, Hollywood Brown's on a milk carton. He's out on the island with Will Fuller.
Yeah, it's exactly what he did when Kyler Murray came back last year, too.
Yeah, they're supposed to be buddies. They played in college together, and he's worse with Kyler Murray. What's happening?
Yeah. What had happened was Trey McBride was a genie you could not put back in the bottle.
Bad. That is a bad dude, Trey McBride. All right, this is a little better. We're in a range that I don't love necessarily, but I am a little more comfortable. Clicking some buttons. I was going to pitch Dontavian Wicks. I know you're into the Packers, and I kind of was it in the expert survey? I think it was in the expert survey that myself and B. Kurt did end of last week, where he talked about B. Kurt puts together the questions with sometimes a little help from me, oftentimes no help from me, but about like things that you have or don't have that you would like to adjust or whatever. I can't remember the specific question, but I was like, I really like the Packers, but I can't seem to ever end up clicking on any Packers in drafts because you never feel right. The wide receivers, like you tell me, I don't even know who's going to be playing. It's one thing to like try to figure out the target share order. It's another thing to be like, they got 5 really good NFL caliber wide receivers, and then they got 2 NFL caliber tight ends. And so I'm trying to like force myself to take some more Packers basically. And I like Wicks quite a bit.
All right. We are coming back on the clock here.
We talked about Kendre.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to take Kendre here?
We talked about Kendre. I don't have, or should we take, should we do this?
We can do that. Let's do
that.
Michael Mayer. Let's get that Fields Mayer situation. I think I didn't hate the pick that we just made with Dontavian Wicks. I think Roshan would have been my pick there to go with the strategy we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then it left the other stuff open, but it's not. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm going to lose sleep because I'm not at my house. I'm in Pennsylvania.
There's pink fucking lights and crazy colored carpet in the room.
Yeah, that's what's going to do it. And I don't have HD TV.
Pardon?
Dude,
is it a tube? Is it a big
no,
tube?
It's a flat screen. It's a flat screen.
That doesn't have HD? What world is this?
I only stay at Hilton hotels. And
yeah, there's nothing
I don't know. Yeah, because they're fine. They're usually pretty good. I don't know where I am right now, but I am not happy about it.
I think this is what happens when you go places to look at ghosts. You end up at TVs or places with TVs that are not HD. It's a flat screen. I didn't know they made flat screens that weren't HD. Wasn't the whole point of the flat screen so that like the definition would be high?
Well, you can
not low.
It's HD capable, but they're not giving you anything that supplies HD.
They don't have HD television. That we had. How is that possible? Who's the cable company that's supplying the cable that's low def television?
I don't know, but you want to talk about places that are going to be weird? You should see the house I'm staying at in terms of ghost hunting next month in April. This house, they have it original to the 70s, and it's going to be a treat.
I'm intrigued.
Yes,
I am intrigued. Definitely Dennis says he is in the 9 spot, so right after us. Username Toast. Toast 0420. That is funny. Dennis is giving away his hobbies with his username. Took Jahmyr Gibbs, Marvin Harrison, DK Metcalf, Drake London, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Kyle Pitts, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Blake Corum, and Michael Wilson. I like it. I don't love every single one of those names, but I don't love every single one of the names that we've even taken. So I dig it. I dig the team.
I forgot we took Jalen Waddle on this team.
What are you doing? So he took Justin Herbert. What have you been doing with Justin Herbert in drafts?
Nothing. I've been doing
same.
Nothing with Justin
I
Herbert.
have 0. I have 0 Justin Herbert, I think.
I took Donald Parham the other night. I think that's the only quote unquote Charger that I have, and I don't even know if he's a free agent or not this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the Chargers technically. Yes.
Technically, yeah.
You should maybe not take guys that you don't know what team that they're playing for and what is, and just my 2 cents.
Hey, second year upside for the third year.
Donald Parham's like 29.
I know. You say it every year.
Second year, yeah.
I said for the third year in a row. Second year upside.
It's like Amari Cooper and Jason Tatum, forever 21 years old, and add Donald Parham to the list. All right, back on the clock. Let me know if we're good at tight end, I think, or close enough to good at tight end. Anything jumping out elsewhere?
No, go. Let's get Roman.
Okay, I'm in for that.
And then I think I know what we should do after this. Speaking on that point we just made up, just for a little fun fact, since we're just having fun this show. Back in the day, Jesse and I created an Instagram called These Are Not Facts, where we would just make up things that weren't facts and post them like they were. And one of my favorite one was that Allen Iverson was the only NBA player to ever win Rookie of the Year twice. And people lost their mind.
You went viral? What year was this? When was this account going on?
2015, I think.
Oh, almost 10 years ago, but not that. You weren't in high school or anything like that.
No. I mean, dude, Instagram wasn't around when I was in high school.
Oh, true. Oh, you said Instagram. Sorry, I wasn't listening closely. I'm still stuck on the fact that I can't pronounce combine.
The other one that was great that people lost their mind of is we posted that horses were extinct from the years 1920 to 1940.
Okay, that's good. That's even better. That's better than that. The Allen Iverson one's very good. That that getting any form of traction is A, hilarious, and B, the most human fucking thing I can ever, like the most social. That's the most social media thing I can ever imagine. The fact that got any form of traction.
Baker, right?
Is it? We have got one. Yeah. We have got one.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. And
that account was fun.
That gives us, right, whether it's Fields or Baker to Vegas, gives us that out, and obviously gives us Baker back to Tampa Bay, and any of the rookies. So I mean,
it's all coming together.
We're having fun, but I kind of like this team. I kind of like it. We've pushed outside of my normal, which I like. I'm glad we did, because I've done so many, like, my favorite structures in the big board are like, I'm so like kind of firm on how I think is best to approach this big board. And so like, man, I feel like a robot drafting teams. It's like, that definitely happens over the summer. I think anybody who, like, say you max BBM or you're just drafting in any volume at all over the summer, you feel that pain of like, back on the clock in the 12th round, guess who? I like this guy or whatever. Shocker. Rashad Penny's available for you. Here you go, idiot. Click him again. But I actually have felt that worse in the big board, which is weird because it should be one of those tournaments where you feel more free to kind of do some stuff because there's so much uncertainty. But I've actually kind of felt the opposite, where I just feel like getting these elite tight ends on your team, jamming tons of these rookie, so like I know the rookies that I like at certain costs, and I'm jamming tons of those rookies. It just felt very robotic. So it was nice to get outside of that kind of comfort zone a little bit in this draft. Like I have 0 Dallas Goedert, and I like Michael Mayer, and I don't have that much because I'm constantly jamming those elite tight ends. And so it was good to get outside of my comfy structure.
So I have 2 thoughts on that as you bring that up. Is first, the tight ends thing. I usually talk about quarterbacks, but the tight end landscape is so different this year. It is so different. We need to talk about that in depth more at some point. And the second thing after we make our next pick is you talk about getting into that robot mind and just like doing it over and over again. I've thought about that over the last few months. I have some ways that I plan to combat that a little bit. Do you have specific things you're going to be looking at to do to combat that this summer? But let's make our pick
Yeah,
first.
let's make this pick. I put Trey Palmer in the queue. Should we do Trey Palmer? I kind of feel like we should take Trey Palmer. I know we need to dabble in some running backs here, but
Yeah, let's do it.
I kind of like Trey Palmer, and yet I have zero of him. I think that speaks to a little bit of my draft strategy. Again, becoming a little bit like a robot, where I don't dislike Trey Palmer. I don't draft a lot of Buck stacks. I draft Godwin, but I don't draft a lot of Buck stacks. And I'm drafting so many rookies, particularly at wide receiver, that when I draft a lot of zero running back and I draft a lot of rookie wide receivers. So once I get to pick 170 or whatever, like Trey Palmer just is like, there's blinders on for some of these guys for me back here. But in terms of your question, it's a really good one. I do find myself a little bit better over the summer being able to like, I always like to call it like be intentional about certain things. My mind is always thinking about best ball. I'm a disgusting individual who is always thinking about this different stuff. So I'm always coming up with different angles to draft, or there is a lot more news happening over the course of the summer and certainly the late summer. And so there's a lot of different things that I feel like help guide me away from the robotic nature of the draft cycle. But honestly, this is a super lazy and easy answer, where I fell into that last year a lot with that running back range, kind of like I talked about before. The big board, that running back range is, right? Zamir and Ty Chandler and Roshan and Khalil Herbert and all those guys that I love in that little area, Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, whatever. I drafted a ton of those guys. And last year I fell into that same thing. Just knowing that, I feel like will get me out of that robotic element of like, I know I'm going to fall into a range of zero running back target running backs, and knowing it and being able to like plan ahead for it is kind of the big thing for me, which is not like a perfect answer to what you're saying, but like having experienced it before and now knowing it, I think helps me a lot.
That's fair. Can we look at the running backs?
Yes. God, this is why this is just
Gross, huh?
I know it's like mega early, but I'm trying to get my Chris Rodriguez
Let's do
it. Way up. Also, I got him ranked pretty close to here, actually, I think. So I'm comfortable with him. I'm also comfortable with, we talked about this.
I think you can pull
16 plus.
Pull up
like,
whoever you want.
I think it's probably like 15 plus, rounds 15 and on. Like, it doesn't matter. The ADP just really doesn't matter. Not in the big board. It probably doesn't matter in Best Ball Mania either, but in the big board, I really don't think it matters.
So to answer that question that I asked you, because I've also thought about this, and not just to pitch our own products here, but the fix for like getting too robotic for myself coming up this year is for big tournaments. So Best Ball Mania, the DK, Millie, whatever that ends up being, the Drafters tournament. I have decided that I am going to attempt to not go more than 10 drafts without doing one in that 10 on the desktop. Hopefully do more on desktop for sure, right? But never go more than 10 so that I can make sure that I'm very specific with exposures on players that I want, either being high enough or low enough, and just using the tools, making the tools work for me the best way that I can make them work for me. Maybe I can't do that with every tournament, but with the flagship tournaments, I'm going to be very specific about it.
I will also say I feel comfortable teasing this now. Sorry, Hacker, if I'm putting you even more pressure on you now. We're working on a mobile version of the Draft Hacker. It will not be...
He's losing his mind.
Yeah, it will not be So like you cannot physically overlay the like exposures and stuff on the Underdog app. So it will be like a side-by-side experience type of a thing. You'd have to flip back and forth, but we're working on something that can help you on mobile as well. And so to that point, yeah, good. That's good. It makes me feel better. Hacker says he's excited about it. But
we'll see what happens in the secret chat in 5 minutes.
yeah, exactly. He's like, you motherfucker. Why did you tell people that? But no, but I think definitely. I mean, we're definitely showing the product, but I legit like you've heard it how many times on this draft where like the tie-breaking process can come down to what your exposures are, what your portfolio looks like. And I don't mean that just in like you should not draft a guy, right? Like Chris Godwin. I have already drafted a shit ton of him. I am 4 times I'm 4x the field on Chris Godwin. Doesn't mean don't draft him, but it does mean like take that into consideration while you're drafting. And I think that can help with the roboticism. Not a word, but sounds good. Jesus, this Dylan Lob stuff is ridiculous. God,
take
give me
Frank
a running
Gore
back.
Jr., you coward.
Is that who you really want me to take?
I mean, you have none of them.
I have none of Dylan Lob either.
His dad played in the NFL last year.
That's true.
Essentially.
I think they're both. Should we take both? Take both of them?
Is Frank Gore still on the thing? For luck, right? You gotta do it for luck.
I'm pretty sure this is what you're supposed to do. It's like taking Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. Sr. on the same team. I need to get him out of the queue. Otherwise, I don't care that much about $10, but I'd rather rather not. I'd rather not lose it on purpose.
The bit's not that good.
Yeah, it's not that good.
Maybe someday there will be a bit good enough.
Yes,
to draft 100%.
Player, there will be a gift. There will be a bit good enough. I want to toss a couple of our running backs into the queue just while I'm thinking.
Oh, Emmanuel Wilson is God. We've done this before.
I know.
My brain never goes to Emmanuel Wilson, and we need to.
I know. And we have Wicks, who I'm going to take Emmanuel Wilson just right away right now.
Yeah.
Oh God. I'm trying to get my weight up on Emmanuel Wilson as well. I know we're playing the hits a little bit. We've drafted both of Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Rodriguez recently, but those are the kind of guys I am trying to get overweight to. It is everything that Rob outlined before. Second year player, second year running back, stepping into not a for sure greater opportunity, right? They could draft someone or sign someone behind Aaron Jones. It's very much possible. But the fact that his ADP is like 240 tells you that the market has assumed that the Packers are not letting Emmanuel Wilson ride as the RB2. And I want to get overweight, basically that entire cohort of player, right? It's what I'm doing with Zamir White and Ty Chandler and all that, except they are the RB1 on their team where the market has said they're the RB1 right now, but they're not going to be the RB1 in September. I want to bet every time the market makes a firm stance on that kind of a thing, I want to bet against it. So Chris Rodriguez, come on down. Emmanuel Wilson, come on down. Ronnie Rivers, right? All of those guys where it's like, look, I'm not an Emmanuel Wilson stan, but I'm saying if he's the backup to Aaron Jones, who, spoiler alert, is probably not going to play every game this upcoming season. I can't remember the last time that he did. He's like 30 or 31. Getting the backup Green Bay Packers running back in the 18th, 19th, 20th round of drafts is well worth drafting the Packers' third running back, right? Like taking the shot on that backup is worth missing and getting their third running back because it's not over if you drafted Emmanuel, right? It's not ideal, but it's not over if you drafted Emmanuel Wilson. But the upside is AJ Dillon was going in like the 9th round for the last 2 years. Higher actually 2 years ago. He's going like the 6th round.
It was much higher.
Yeah, it was way higher. So like that's the upside of the guy we're talking about here, and we're getting him this late. Those are the kind of guys I want to be overweight on.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, he was their third running back last year and produced as the third running back.
Jack wants to know about either of these guys, Zach Evans or Eric Gray. I haven't drafted either, but have you drafted either of these guys?
No, but I remember you talking me into Erik Ray for about 48 hours last year.
Yeah, let's just like the fact that I can't say combine. Let's get Erik Gray, my Erik Gray touting out of your brain after this one. So we're pretty open here. I'm just opening up wide receiver. I wouldn't mind sprinkling another rookie wide receiver or two if you have a thought. Otherwise, I'm going to take Jacob Cowing if you don't like it.
Yeah, take Cowing. My thought is, why is Juwan Jennings? I guess I understand why he's so low, but I thought he would be a little higher than what.
What's your take on Juwan Jennings? Just he's the Niners wide receiver 3, or are you like projecting some Ayuk uncertainty?
Well, it's the Ayuk uncertainty. I thought that would have had him rise a little bit based on that. I'm not saying that I'm in on him by any means, like in terms of he should be too much higher, but I would take some shots on Juwan Jennings here and there. 18th, 19th, 20th round. Why wouldn't you? We just saw him produce in the Super Bowl.
He did just ball out in the Super Bowl. And I've been known. Remember Gabe Davis? I've been known to draft a guy who has a big game in the playoffs. But we do have just a few picks before we make our 20th round pick. I wanted to see, how do you generally polish up a team like this? We have Dallas Goedert and Michael Mayer, who I'm comfortable with 2 tight ends. I prefer actually 2 tight ends. We have Bijan, Ken Walker, Chase Brown, Chris Rodriguez, Frank Gore Jr., and Emmanuel Wilson at running back. I also feel comfortable with that, but I'd be down for a 7th running back there. I don't really want to take another quarterback. So how do you decide between running back, wide receiver, tight end on this team?
On this team, I feel like we can take the shot at running back.
Okay.
Because we're really strong at wide out with some really big upside guys there.
Mm-hmm. I like this blend.
I would just
be nice rookies, got stacks, I like this wide receiver group.
Yeah, I think we're more than fine there. So I would just be firing at any lob, like any of these guys with some potential upside.
Do you have a preference, or you want me to make a final decision?
You can take who you want here.
All right, let's do.
I'd probably grab Lob just to have him.
Let's do it. I don't really love him, but we drafted some guys I don't really like. Well, mainly him and Frank Gore Jr. I don't really love, but I'm making sure this year, to kind of your question about the robotic thing. I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing a better job of being open to sprinkles of guys that I don't necessarily love. Like, I don't have to take Ronnie Rivers in every draft in the 20th round just because I like him more than a Dylan Lobb or a Frank Gore Jr.
But especially this draft when you have 20 rounds.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's, to me, I don't like the extra 2 rounds on Underdog. I like the format of 18 on Underdog. But if you're going to give me the extra 2, I'm going to use it as opportunity to just do what we just did with a team, get some guys that I maybe don't have on some areas of uncertainty within my team. Like, yes, we shored up our quote unquote starting running backs on this team by drafting Bijan and Kenneth Walker, but that just gives me the opportunity to take those guys in the 19th, 20th round that I don't take too often, because I'm hoping they hit late. Right? Like, that's all you're hoping for there, is you hope they hit late. Like, you did have a good point the other day about not using that as your expectation for every player that you draft, because shit happens in the off season, and because you want him to be late, he still might be a first week, viable player. But that's just gravy on top at that point.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah. So I think that's what I would do with this particular team that we just drafted.
I like it. I like it. And like I said, I'm trying to, you have to really, dare I say, thread the needle between being firm on your takes, right? We like, you're playing this game because there are certain players, structures, angles to the game that you believe are an edge, advantageous to you. And that's different for everybody. It's not even just a player thing. It could be a structure thing. It could be ADP value. It could be whatever. We all have different things that we believe are edges for us. And I certainly believe from a player expectation, a player perspective, that I have some things that I really do passionately believe are edges. And so that comes through in my exposures as well, right? You saw tons of Ronnie Rivers. You saw tons of those other guys, those late round picks that I draft a lot of. But I also want to make sure this year specifically, like I'm drafting, like especially when we include big board, God forbid you include baseball or basketball or something like that. I mean, we're talking about thousands of teams. Like I don't want to draft that many teams and completely ignore what other people that I respect and listen to and I also like. So let's just Dylan Lob as an example. I understand why other people like Dylan Lob. I get it. I totally get it. He's not for me personally, but that just because my take is that Dylan Lob is not the preferred 20th round target at running back, rookie running back, doesn't mean that like I should draft 0 of them. You know what I mean? Like I just want to. I'm trying to like I said, do that balancing act of making sure I'm sticking to my guns and doing the things that I think are the most advantageous, but also being open to mixing and matching a little bit more, right? I don't want to fall into the trap of I'm only drafting my guys. I'm only drafting my guys. And then Dylan Lob is a hit. And I took Ronnie Rivers in every draft. And I could have just like one, all it takes is that one team where I took Dylan Lob on, and it was really helpful for my whole best ball season. And so that's something I'm really working on. I don't know what the right answer is. Like, I'm not even saying what I just described is the right answer, but I'm saying that's something I'm trying to really, really figure out. More so than like everybody wants to talk about, like, what do you think about this 3rd round pick? Like, honestly, a lot of that is not of a major amount of interest to me, but figuring out like when I don't like Dylan Lob, but he's in a cohort of players that I do like, rookie running backs, 20th round running backs, pass catching running backs, that's all good. Like, how much of that player do I take when I like other options? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like what I'm trying to outline?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing to go along with that is being allowed to change your opinion of the player
Yeah.
as more information presents itself and not take locking yourself. So you might not like Dylan Lobb right now, even though you're trying to take him occasionally. Well, the draft comes and he gets drafted to, I don't know, who's a team that
The
needs a
fucking
running back?
Chiefs.
Well,
He takes
the
the
Chiefs.
McKinnon role from
He
the
had
Chiefs or something. Like, imagine that. Like, that's amazing.
right. So like you're allowed to change then just because you weren't in on him right now. When that information becomes available, you're allowed to pivot. Justin Fields goes to Atlanta, my Bijan take gets blown up for me. Like, not that I won't take Bijan, but I won't be going out of my way to pull him up as much as I am right now if Justin Fields goes to Atlanta. Just because I think some of the first round draft pick opportunity I want goes away with Justin Fields as his quarterback. So
Just
yeah,
from
I'll
a
still
pass
have
catching,
Bijan Robinson.
just pass catching wise or whatever. Is that what you're thinking?
Just from a rushing upside where Justin Fields is going to take some of his, you know, some of his goal line work, some of his rushing upside, not all of it, and some of his pass catching thing. That's another big thing for me
Yeah.
is I think that's part of my reason for Bijan right now is not just his rushing and his goal line touches, but that passing upside, especially if like a Kirk Cousins goes there or something like that's why I think Bijan can go to the moon. I think Justin Fields throttles a little bit of that down. It doesn't mean that Bijan can't be a top 5 back, but I'm looking for a unicorn season from Bijan at this moment. But there's information that can come out that just absolutely changes my opinion of what that unicorn season can be for him. So
Yeah, I love that. That's a goddamn great thing to wrap on as we're talking about some of these things that we're trying to process. Like, I listened to, and then I will wrap. I apologize, but I just listened to Neil Orfield had our good friend Pete Overzet on. Neil's doing a fun series, just talking to folks from within the industry, and Pete talked about Neil is great, by the way. You need to go Neil Orfield on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel. But Pete talked about how, like, and I do love this about Pete, that he's like, I never have felt like, like an expert, or like I'm giving out all the right takes, or I'm definitely not a pro. He does DFS content. He's like, I never felt like a pro DFS player. And I've always felt really passionate about that from us here at Spike Week, but also just like proud of that as well, where it's like, I feel like we're giving out winning advice and winning content, while also like doing what you just said. Like, I'm not right about it. I don't have all the answers. I don't think anyone should tell you that they have all the answers, or that their takes are always the best. I think what we're talking, it's March, dude. Like we're talking about fantasy football in March, and we're going to keep evolving. And we're like, the things that I probably said today, I may totally contradict myself in July or whatever. And so that's why I thought that kind of closing conversation was important, because we're going to keep trying to evolve these things and get better at these things and figure those things out. I'm not a Dylan Lobb lover, but we'll see in 2 months. Dylan Lobb may be a stand that I take in Best Ball Mania. I don't know. I don't know, even though I don't love him as a player. So great closing conversation, I think. To wrap, Wednesdays are going to be our second live stream location, if you will. We're moving off of Tuesdays. Obviously, thank you for joining us here on a Monday. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be back to draft another best ball team. And if you missed it, Rob relaunched the Sicko Sundays, Sunday Sickos. I always confuse it. I should certainly know. But Sunday Sickos, 10 a.m. Eastern. Get your coffee, go hop out on the patio. The weather's getting nice, and draft the best ball team with Rob on Sunday mornings. Those are our three.
If you're drafting a team on a Sunday morning in March at 10 a.m. Eastern, you're definitely a sicko. So the name is apropos.
The show is perfect for you. Be on the lookout for our next show on Wednesday with me, drafting Wednesday night. And of course, as I mentioned, with Rob on Sunday. We will see you guys then on Wednesday and Sunday. Have a good night. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.